Okay, we are live. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to episode 2 of the DBT podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. Of course, my co-host Roshan is here, but we have a very special guest. Sushant Dhakal is with us. Sushant is the director of software engineering at Expedia Group. He leads a global team of 70 plus engineers, and he's responsible for their massive payment system that processes over $120 billion annually. That's a lot of zeros.
Yes.
I don't know how many zeros that is.
I don't know how many zeros that.
He's a 15-year tech veteran who's worked at Amazon, Scholastic, Entrust, and you might not guess this, but he's also a first degree Taekwondo black belt and instructor too.
Yes, sir.
Born in Nepal, he currently lives in Austin. That's where he's joining us today. So we're very happy to have you today joining us.
Super excited to be here. I know Roshan and I have talked about this for some time,
Yes, sir.
but it's happening, and I'm super excited and happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You know, there's sometimes like, that energy shift kind of thing. It's just like I have approached many people into it, but with you, it's just like that level of excitement that you bring. It doubles my excitement. And I've been telling to Susan, like, hey man, like I've talked to Sushant and he's just excited, let's do it. And I'm like, man, I don't get that kind of response from a lot of guests.
Right.
So I'm very happy and I'm very appreciative to you for taking your time in the weekend and sitting down with us and talk to us about, few great things that you have learned so far coming on.
And I just want to say, you guys are doing fantastic, right? This is a great start. You guys have been doing this for a while, so it's not really a start.
Yeah.
But I love listening to it. So again, very excited to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the excitement you showed, kind of got us. I don't know if it does put like pressure on us, Roshan, at all.
Definitely. Definitely. It does.
Pressure's on me, guys. Come on, it's all here. It's all coming this way.
No, you came in. Look at you dressed up. You got your Rolex on. Come on, you are doing well.
You have seen me in podcasts. Like I really not a apparel fashion sense guy, right? So as soon as Sushant I say, okay, I'm gonna come in, I'm like, okay, where's my shirt at? I gotta wear a shirt today. Just because he also runs a.
Was it in the back of the closet? You have to like reach for that one.
It was like all dusty. I had to like kind of dust it up, right? So Sushant has been an inspiration in so many regards for me as well, right? One thing that I look up to him, he has an Instagram handle as well, Sushant Wardrobes. If you guys want to see like what kind of clothes you should wear on what weather, what season, please do give him a follow. But those are the things that I see him as inspiration, besides the leadership, besides the work he does for the community, right? So like, why is it so important to dress up or like have that, sense of fashion? Why do you think that's very important?
I think for me, I think presenting yourself in any situation is better than not presenting yourself well enough, right? And the reason for that is if you present yourself well enough, that confidence just automatically arises, right? That you don't have to think about, oh, how am I looking today? Is this person judging me? Now, it doesn't mean that you always have to look tip top and you have to be on your game all the time, but as much as you can, right? That's one. The other reason was my wife kind of told me one day, hey, look, I mean, you have, so and so many clothes and people sometimes don't know how to combine things, how to wear certain things in certain situations. They go on vacation, they go on beaches. Maybe it's a good thing for you to kind of share some of those things you have learned over the years, whether that's fashion, whatever it is, right? I was like, why not? So she actually, to her credit, she started the channel for me.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then we started putting a little bit of content. So let's see where it goes. We will try to do more.
Awesome.
I think we're not doing that as much right now, but we'll try to put more out there.
Prime example of what is it? Behind every successful man, there's like a woman's hand.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's a very true statement.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. Are you saying that because you're on live on
Well,
a podcast?
I have to. She's gonna watch it, right? So that's very true.
Very diplomatic. Yeah. I think you guys recognize that. I'm good for the time being, but
just for the time being. He's not yet married.
It's
so-
inevitable.
Oh,
It's
okay.
inevitable. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and another thing, like, that confidence thing, I think a little touch on the Taekwondo part. I really didn't know that until I was like, oh, Sushant, like let me look at what he does. I've always known him as my brother, right? So I always had that little bit of like, oh, I know him at all. And then I started looking at it, like preparing things, and I saw Taekwondo instructor, and it was actually him who found out about it. And I'm like, wow. right? So what got you in that? Like, when
Yeah.
did you start, and like how has my younger brother, he's in karate as
Right.
well,
Right.
and he always talks about that sportsmanship and all that, being
Right.
disciplined kind of thing. So tell us something about that.
Yeah. So I think the concept of martial arts kind of peaked to me as a kid, right? So when I was in Nepal, I did do karate, and I think I went up to a green or brown, somewhere there. Not too low, not too high either. And then when I came to the US and I graduated, number one, I was kind of bored, right? After college, there was not much to do except for work. So I started kind of looking into, okay, what should I do after work, right? Except for just partying or something. I was like, all right, let me work out. And at the gym where I was, there was an instructor teaching Taekwondo in a racquetball court right downstairs.
Wow.
And I was looking at it and I was like, all right, let me give it a shot.
Yeah.
Like maybe that childhood kind of interest would peak again. And then I started and I loved it, right? So I went all the way through. So it was not like, I kind of stopped and took a break and then got back again. I went all the way to black belt. And when I was doing that, again, that whole leadership and, things that I usually do, my instructor saw that in me and said, hey, do you want to help me out with the class? I was like, sure. So we started a little bit of help there. And then one thing I did see was there's an example. There was this little girl and both of her parents were doing Taekwondo. So she would sit on the side. But then we at the racquetball / basketball court, so both combined in a single court. So she would just take basketball and just throw at people, right? So I said to her parents, I'm like, hey, look, I mean, she's clearly bored, so she wants to do something. Why don't you put her in Taekwondo, see how she behaves, right? And then she did Taekwondo for 3 months under white belt, night and day difference. Like like when her parents would be doing it, she would be just on the side looking at them. So I saw the discipline that instills in kids. And that's when I wanted to become an instructor.
Wow.
Okay. So I wanted to kind of make a difference even in little kids' lives, even if it's small as that, right? Just being disciplined, just having that restraint while your parents are doing Taekwondo. I saw that. And then I taught for I think 3.5, 4 years. And after COVID hit, that's when everything kind
Everything
of
just
stalled a
stopped.
little bit. Now I'm thinking about getting back to it. It's just life, right? Very busy schedule and stuff. So we'll see. We'll see if I'm getting back to instructing again.
Okay. So with Taekwondo, right? So it's more about discipline. So when we shift that maybe through to your career and what
Right.
you're doing now, are there any lessons you can take from that? That has kind of helped you in your day-to-day today? Do you find yourself kicking some people because they don't suggest the best ideas?
Sometimes we shouldn't talk now.
Yeah.
I think what Taekwondo and any martial arts for that matter teaches you is not aggression, but the other way. It's defensiveness, right? And leadership in some ways. You'd never hear very impactful fighters. And there's a big video online where there's this big boxer in Mexico. He has this argument with a Jets fan, and the Jets fan is on his face, and he just smiles and walks away. He could have easily,
Right.
done some harm there, right? But he's like, no, not worth it, right? So I think that's what instills that kind of skill set is what instills it gets instilled by martial arts. Now, those things you can absolutely take it, right? The power of restraint when things are controversial, right? You don't want to ruffle the feathers when things are already volatile in some way. So it teaches you that. Being an instructor taught me how to work with different kinds of people, whether that's age, whether that's culture, whether that's different backgrounds, financial or whatnot. So it teaches you that as well. It teaches you how to work across the aisle. And I think third thing, it keeps you fit, right? Like as with any other martial arts, it has a lot of. It's not just punches and kicks. It has a lot of pre things that you have to do, push-ups of the world, pull-ups of the world. So you're working out at the same time, so it just keeps you fit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. So let's kind of shift through to what you're doing today, right? So you're in charge of a lot of things at
Right.
Expedia. Obviously, if our audience doesn't know Expedia is a one of the largest platforms, primarily known for booking travel, right? Whether that's flights, cars, hotels, kind of all of those world. I think I want to start with maybe on a soft note. One of the most recent trends that has happened in travel is this concept of point hacking and trying to, not necessarily pay cash for things, right?
Right.
So I want to know from you. I'm not sure if you travel often, but I'm assuming being
Very
part of
much, yep.
Expedia, you would. What are some ways that people are still people are not aware of ways they can save money while traveling? Do you have like any tips or advice for people?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a big proponent of using your points as much as you can. Never let your points expire. If you have expired points, please go back and see if you can retrieve those. Right. I think it's not so much just Expedia. Expedia has its own loyalty program. So once you're on our platform, you'll keep collecting that thing called One Key Cash, which you can basically apply for your future travel, which is great. Saving is always good. But also, I'd be very practical about the types of cards that you use, right? Like the credit cards that you use, okay? Because that's the bread and butter of the points system, right?
Right.
Everybody's biased. Somebody says, Amex Platinum is the best one, right? Some say Chase Sapphire Reserve is the best.
Now Robinhood's coming out with their
Robinhood's coming out with 3% flat on everything, right?
Which I think they're like really, I think surpassing a lot of the programs out there.
Yeah, across the aisle, 3% is.
I'm seriously looking into canceling my Platinum to go get the Robinhood card.
Right. So
I already transferred my points.
Did you really?
Platinum? Yep.
Platinum to Robinhood?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm actually getting out of
Have you already applied and done that or really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got to do that too. I'm really big into this point hacking and
but I think at the end of the day, it's also important what's important to you, right? Some people love traveling, and for them, the airport experience, the airlines experience is super important. For some people, they don't really care. They just want to get to the airport, get on a flight, and then after they go in is when they want to truly experience, right? In a place like at a beach or whatever it is. So it all depends on your interest, and then you'd want to select the cards based on that, right? Some people love shopping, right? Going to Lululemon or going to whatever. For them, maybe Amex Platinum is a good one, right? So there's no single answer, but definitely be loyal to a single platform, whatever that is. I'm not suggesting or selling Expedia. If you're a Priceline person, it sucks, but no, I'm kidding. Be loyal to the platform, and once you're at that, I think you'll get rewarded. But point hacking is absolutely important through both the combination of the right set of credit cards and in a loyalty thing on a platform.
But what do you say to like the strategies people use nowadays, which was like apply to as many credit cards as you can just to get that introductory points. And then like move on to the next. I mean, I've read this thing online, and one of the biggest messages out there is you apply for a credit card, first 3 months, you spend enough to go get those points, and then you stop spending on that. Then you go next. And people are doing a ton of those. I'm not sure if that impacts Expedia in any way or not. So
it doesn't. We have our own credit card called One Key Credit Card. So Expedia offers that. So there's a bunch of advantages with that. I think they're like tiers like the platinum and the gold cards and stuff like that. So depending on that, I'm not a big proponent of that simply because, look, I mean, credit cards can be a snowball, right? Like if you're not very responsible, if you're young in your career, and I have learned that the hard way, right?
I think all of us have. We've had our horror stories with credit cards. Yeah,
exactly. Once you start to accumulate the debt, and some people have a plan and they would, condense it down. But if you don't, then you just keep accumulating the debt. Right. But if you have a plan, that's fine. I'm not a big proponent of having like 5 different cards. I would be, again, very selective. So if you are just a college kid, graduated, you're not going to get, maybe, you won't get an Amex Platinum or something else. So I'd start with a very nice Discover or Capital One rewards, right? Venture rewards and stuff like that. So, travel is, if that's important, that's very good. And then as you progress through your journey, then you can get into like the bigger and better cards. But don't go and, just for that temporary pleasure for 3 months, get a card and then cancel it or accumulate debt, go to another one, accumulate debt, go to another one. Not my cup of tea.
Got it. So on that part, like another thing is like how AI had changed in terms of travel bookings with Expedia or any other platforms. Like what are the changes that you have seen in recent days with AI in terms of people booking it?
Yeah.
Just because it used to be for me as well. Like I used to ask for some friends for itinerary. Like if you have travel, like, hey, can you send me? Now it's all about going in Claude or Gork or, ChatGPT, anywhere you want to go, Gemini.
Right.
So how has that changed in terms of booking for
Yeah.
Expedia or overall that travel industry? What do you
Right.
think?
Huge revolution is coming, right? I mean, we've already started seeing that through AI, and travel is no different, right? One of the biggest changes that I've seen, and if you think about travel in general, the traditional method of travel is you go to Expedia.com, you go to like flights and hotels, and you say, I'm going from point A to point B. Get me a hotel. What's the cheapest one? Show me. I reserve. I go. Right, and then I'll figure it out. Once I reach the city, maybe you'll
Sure.
pre-plan, like maybe you'll pre-plan it, maybe you'll get there and then start planning, whatever your preference is. The way travel is changing now is from that point A to point B experience, it's become a completely full travel experience sort of thing through agentic solutions. So what that means is you don't even have to worry about flights if you just give an AI agent parameters to say, hey, look, to me, I really want to do a scuba in Australia, and I want to get a shortest layovers in between to get to Australia. I don't want like more than one layover somewhere, and I want to get there. I want to do that for 3 days and then come back. That's all you got to say now, right? And it'll figure it out for you. The whole thing,
Wow.
the whole experience. It'll get you the cheapest flights. It'll get you the shortest layovers. It'll get you there. It'll book a hotel. Now, obviously, there are complicated part where you have to enter the credit card information and all
Yeah.
that stuff. You can do that. And then once that happens, it's going to be truly experience based travel than reaching from point A to point B and let me figure all the logistics out. That's the major travel changes that's happening. And it's all backed by AI. So we're truly at an inflection point right now with AI. So you can have your personal assistants, right? Like, Claude has it, and,
Yes.
Right.
OpenAI has a bunch of these agents that are just public now. You can create your own, personal assistant that would actually do this for you. And then Expedia is also building some sort of a, not there yet, but some sort of a true experience based travel, then point A to point B.
Yeah, I think often, there was a moment when I traveled. I think this is back in 2023, and I had a business trip, and when I was coming back, I had a flight through Japan.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to have a layover, maybe like a 2 or 3 hour layover.
Right.
And just out of curiosity, I was like, hey, I'm coming through Japan. It's not often like you'll end up going to
Went to
Japan. So I
Japan.
was like, hey, let me see if I like end up staying there for a little bit extra time, what that flight would be like. So
Yeah.
I went on the airlines page. I essentially just pushed my second half of my flight
Right.
by a week. And then I found out that it was at no additional cost.
Yeah.
So essentially, I was like, I could take a break for a week, take some time off, travel Japan.
Yeah.
Then I'll figure out my bookings and all that.
Yeah.
But all of this is already part of my itinerary, right?
Yeah.
I think those things, if AI could help, would be massive for travel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's at that time I had the conscious thought of, hey, if I like, let me see what would happen there. Now imagine with AI, if I'm like, hey, are there ways that I could go and spend time at this
Yeah.
place? Are there ways I could do this? I
Yeah.
think that would be an amazing functionality for travelers.
If
to have.
layover is not that important, and this is a great example that you
Yeah.
gave is, look, I mean, we're in a social media age, right?
Yep.
You can even tell the AI agent like, hey, I saw Roshan's or yours, that these guys had a layover there.
Yeah.
And they had a great time. Can you just tailor my or change my itinerary based on that? Because I want to do that. And it'll do it for you now,
Wow.
right? Your like AI agents can actually do that for you.
Yeah.
And that's a great example. I've seen we're developing an agent where you can actually put influencer social media handle, and that agent goes and learns what they have been doing
Wow.
right in the past 12 months, 18 months,
Sure.
whatever, and then kind of tailor the destination based on your preference. So if they've already gone to Japan, for example,
Yeah.
and they've had like fantastic time, the weather was great. These are the places that they went to, landed in Tokyo, went to Kyoto, whatever it is.
Sure.
It'll just tailor a perfect sort of itinerary for you based on some of those, things that you see on the internet.
Yeah.
And I think these days it's very important as like where you go click a picture, right?
Yeah.
I was in Japan too, right? There are
Right.
some certain spot like where you have to stay in line just to click that picture of that monument or
Right.
that view, right? So we're into this place called Miyazu.
Okay.
Right. And there was one place like where you just go knee down and look at it, you'll see ocean and the sky together. So it's
Right.
called a sky of heaven, right? And there is a spot where you can click a picture, right? And that's very important. Like I knew that because I looked into someone's Instagram, right?
Right.
And it's very cool if like AI agent can be like, hey, such and such influencer was here and they did this.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm quite that's a very thoughtfulness of Expedia, I guess, in terms of going where
Yeah.
and like where are people going. Just because these guys get a special treatment, like influencers and all that
Right.
stuff, whenever they're visiting places, right? So I think that would be a really cool thing. I'm excited now.
Yeah, yeah. And look, I mean, I think it's the productizing age now. So, these kind of things can be independent products of their own that
Yes.
can be integrated, right,
Right.
with
Yeah.
with Expedia or Expedia and Priceline, and these companies are exposing these kind of things. So, yeah, it's an interesting time to live by. To put it at
It's all
least.
about experience now. I think
Yeah.
with
100%.
Airbnb as well, right? They like you can come sleep at my house, right? But I can make some, Nepali dumplings for you.
Right.
That's an experience. You can pay extra for it.
Yep. You
And
can bring your chefs.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think that's where we headed. You think like in terms of where we are going in terms of travel, more on the experience base.
We are, yeah. Again, I mean that whole point A to point B thing, especially with Gen Z and the younger generation, they don't want that, right? I mean, they just want to know what they want to do. Get me there.
Yep.
Get me to do that thing, whatever
Got it.
that is,
Yeah.
right? And that's what the experience based travel is.
Oh, really cool. Okay. Yeah. Whenever that comes out, we'll be
Yeah.
able
We
to
can
try
do a
that.
beta testing for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got
Does
two
it- does that
customers right
involve-
here.
Does that involve paying also, or
So that's the complicated part. So
Is that Expedia? Yeah.
well, so
Is there like some back end you can give us access to that will just book this
right
for
now
us?
I don't think is there yet. We've talked about it.
Yeah.
It's public, so
Yeah.
it's in
Oh,
the
really cool.
blogs.
Yeah.
There's so when it comes to payments, it is governed by a lot of compliance and regulations.
Yeah.
So it's not as easy as I'm just going to put my credit card in a chat prompt in ChatGPT. We can't do that.
Okay.
So there's a whole host of process that goes behind how you would actually collect the payment, how you would store the payment, how you would use that payment tokens to actually make the actual payments in the back end. So we're not there yet. So
Mhm.
you'd still need Expedia or Priceline to give you supply to some system, and then that system needs to be able to process payments.
Got it.
But if you have a payment rail,
Mhm.
you can definitely integrate some of these through APIs, and then
Wow.
create your own experience, sort of
Yeah.
a product.
So talking about this Expedia as well, you lead a very big global team as well, right?
Right.
So how is it like, you're in Taekwondo, you do a lot of other mentorship things that I know of, right? So how are you managing this like high function career, managing a global team?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that you'll have to take meetings sometimes in the middle of the night with
Right.
people being in other countries and all that stuff. So how are you balancing this high function careers and your hobbies, family times and all that stuff?
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to do everything at once. Okay, that simply won't happen. You have only so many hours in a day, right? So you really have to prioritize what's important to you, right? To me, spending some time at home and just relaxing, that gives me some peace. So I do spend some time at home doing that. But at the same time, I think the power of time boxing for me is the most important. People talk about time management, and that's like, that has so many implications and so many connotations around it. To me, time boxing is the important thing. So
What is
time boxing is essentially you would box times during the day to do certain things, and you focus. So you say something along the lines of, okay, so when I'm at work from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., whatever that is, I'm going to focus just at work, right? I'm not going to use social media. I'm not going to, go talk to some people outside and, spend time, whatever it is that you're doing. I'm just going to time box my time and just spend my time at work. And then you excel at that, right? And then you time box certain time for Taekwondo. From 6 to 8, I'm going to be here, right? And if you have that time boxing skills, more than time management skill, time boxing skill, it's gonna reward you a little bit. Now, it also has its toll. When you are super busy, it takes a toll on you. So not everything will be perfect. Not everything will go according to plan. So you have to give yourself some grace. If you mess up, if you do something, you can just say like, hey, look, it just didn't work out this time. I'll go and do it a week later. It's fine, right? So give yourself some grace there. But yes, my schedule is kind of hectic, right? I do have teams in Austin. I have teams in Seattle. I have teams in India, so I have to be in 3 different time zones. I have a team in Missouri, which is not my direct team, but I work very closely with them also. So I have to, kind of manage that. So time boxing has helped me quite a bit on
Yeah.
that endeavor.
So how do you, one thing I often hear about tech people is, they're great at creating technology, but really bad with people, right? Because it's a very different skill set. Because you're
Right.
mostly focused on just getting your job done. You're mostly like on doing it on your own. How do you like develop those skills?
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the things that's prevalent out there is engineers are socially very bad.
Right.
That's the main thing. And to some extent, maybe like engineers tend to be a bit introverted, right? I don't want to say socially bad. They're just not comfortable at times to just go and hang out at a bar and just talk to random people, right?
Sure.
I think it's something intrinsic in you, right? So one thing I have is yes, on the technology front, my career has been gone well, but also I am a social butterfly. I love talking to people, right? And that's something that comes with practice, right? That's something that you'd have to intentionally do. Nobody can tell you like, hey, Roshan, go tomorrow. Roshan is obviously an opposite of introvert,
Yeah.
but if he was like, I can't tell
We can't
Roshan
even
like,
imagine him
Yeah,
not
exactly.
speaking.
Roshan, like, come on, man, calm down.
We keep his mic muted actually most of the podcast. There's a lot of editing work that
There you
goes
go,
behind
right?
the scenes.
But if he were introverted, I can't just tell him like, hey, go hang out with 20 people, right?
Right.
Like that's simply not happening. So to some extent, you'd have to be intentional about meeting new people, having that social interaction. And if you have those two things, is especially in tech, I'm just talking about tech. But if you have that technology mindset and you're really good at what you do, and you combine that with the skill set of being very social and a social butterfly, that's a potent combo. That's when leaders start to sort of start to go up essentially.
Okay. So talking about tech, there are a few things I want to cover, that I think you would handle in your day to day. But I want to start with kind of all of the impact that AI is making, right? Good, bad, and there are a lot of industries getting disrupted,
You're right.
right? As a result of this. I mean, just yesterday, I was just on Reddit, and a lot of things go on Reddit. But one of the things I was reading was how AI was predominantly one of the main reasons Chegg, which
Yep.
was they started out as an educational institution kind of supporting knowledge, eventually became almost like
AI.
eventually they became like, hey, just tell us the question, we'll give you the
Yes.
answer, so
Yeah,
you can maybe get ahead on your education. But now all of that AI is able to do,
Right.
right? So they're essentially like their entire business models eliminated.
Yeah.
And there are many companies like this that due to AI have essentially just ceased to exist. And I think we all anticipate that's going to continue to happen. Claude Code is one of the biggest
insane.
disruptions, right?
Yeah.
So I want to understand from your side, in your day to day, and maybe the organization's philosophy, your philosophy, how that disruption has happened, and how do you continue to kind of adapt, but at the same time grow the organization and prevent too much of AI dependency.
Right.
Like, how do you handle those scenarios?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you're absolutely right, right? So we are truly at an inflection point where AI is here to stay. Okay. So the first thing I think I hear once in a while from people is, hey, look, is it just a bubble that we're in right
Sure.
now with AI? Is it going to burst at some point? Look, nobody can predict, but I personally don't think so. This
Sure.
is here to stick for some time, right? So the first thing that you need to do as a professional, as an engineer, especially in tech, is lean in into this. Okay, if you're still doubtful and if you still don't know, to your point, Cloud Code or how to use Cloud Code, or Codex, right? It's controversial. Guys, the train has left the building at this point, right? It's going to be hard for you to catch up. So admit that this is not a fad. This is not a bubble. Lean in heavily. That's number one. Number two, what I've also talked to people about is, and a lot of folks, engineers or students in computer science, are confused and concerned that, hey, should we even study this, right?
Yes.
You absolutely should, right? AI is not replacing humans to do very important things. Like, for example, AI would not be able to articulate and make good judgment on what the strategy should be, right? It'll give you a framework, but at the end of the day, you'd still need those humans to actually make those aspirational goals and create those and whatever those judgments are in order for you to strategically move your company forward. So you still need humans for that. So never think that AI is here to replace me. It's AI is with me to accomplish a goal. So that's how I train people. Is like, don't spend time in things that you don't have to spend time on anymore. Like, don't spend time on just writing code from scratch.
Sure.
You're just wasting your time, right? Like, be a person who has product mindset. How can you like productize some ideas, right? How can you vibe and, stay with Claude and just get something out, POC out, right? And demonstrate. So that's what my coaching to my engineers have been, right? Lean in and then make sure that you actually think about products, make sure that the design is great, right? Do not lose hope that computer science is going away. Maybe computer science would change a little bit in terms of how the education and the academic side of things would form, but it's not going away. And you just have to sort of change ways of doing things.
On top of that, like there is a big nervousness of layoffs and jobs
Right.
as well, right? With what we're saying is like, hey, as you said, like we are here with AI and human together.
Yeah.
That's the way forward. But at the same time, we're seeing like big tech companies where they are having a lot of layoffs.
Yeah, Oracle with their 30,000.
30,000
layoffs, right?
last
That's
week
the
or week
largest.
before. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's the largest
Facebook
one.
announced yesterday, or Meta announced yesterday, 10%, 8,000
Wow.
people. And Microsoft has early retirement.
Yeah.
But anyway, continue,
so,
please.
so with the nervousness in the job market, right? We talked on our podcast last week as well with another guest. Like, how is someone like you might be able to give us some tips or for our viewers who have just finished their degrees, right? Just because like this big amount of people who are being laid off, they are already flooding the job market. What about these people who wants to get into a job market, who have just finished their education,
College degree.
So anywhere you look at it, I've heard about like you need 4 years experience. I've just finished 4 years college. Where do I get the 4 years experience?
Do I have to
from
retrain myself in some area?
Yeah. So what are your tips, or as a director, like what are the things that you would want them to do it for them to get into tech companies or other stuff?
Yeah. So before we go into the tips in terms of what you need to do, let's kind of maybe correct some assumption as to how we got here, right? Yes, does AI play a heavy role in what we're seeing with the layoffs and Oracle and Meta and all that stuff? Absolutely. But also, I think we had an overhiring problem during COVID. Okay. If you really look back in end of 2020, 21, and even parts of 22, early 2022, the interest rate was virtually zero.
Yes.
Yeah, it's free money.
Right. It was free money, right?
Sure.
Companies would just borrow free money.
Sure.
And then they would have these growth plans, right? Like, oh, we're going to roll out these many things, right? Well, who do you need to do that? People, right?
Right.
So they hired massive number of people. Now, Expedia was very careful about that because travel was almost none, right?
You're on the opposite side.
Yeah, we're on the opposite side.
Yeah.
We're like, what should we do? Okay, let's do a bunch of tech debts and figure out things. But if you think about true e-commerce, right? Amazons of the world or Metas of the world, like people are staying home using Facebook, or people are staying home and shopping on Amazon, right? Or watching Netflix, right? So they had a massive overhiring problem. So what's happening now is with the interest rate going up, they can't sustain that, right? Like it's expensive to now, hire people, or borrowing cost is higher. So they're now trimming to correct. Okay, so the equilibrium is coming back down.
Sure.
Okay. The issue that we're seeing now, though, is it's not just a correction, but it's also AI, right? The impact of AI. Now, you don't need like 10 people to do 10 things. You need 2 people to do 200 things, right? So that's the crux of it. Now, in terms of what my advice is, especially to your point, Roshan, about people who are just about to graduate college, or who are going into college studying computer science or whatever tech field it is. I would say the important part is really thinking as an entrepreneur, okay? Not so much as a student, not so much as an employee of a company, but as an entrepreneur, right? So what that means is, if I'm truly developing something, and if this was my company, how would I do it, right? So product mindset again, okay? The other thing I would think about is upskilling, right? If people are just out of college and they want to get into something, You have to be able to understand what's going on in the generative AI world, right? So upskilling yourself, making sure that you're not just working on traditional sense, right? The third thing is learning the process, right? How do these companies operate at scale, especially leveraging AI? So talk to people, talk to myself, and find out what are some tips and tricks, right? With which they can be successful getting in first, like going through the interview round, and then how can you sort of scale once you get into college. I again, like I said earlier, I don't recommend people to freak out and think that studying CS or studying technology is not going to pay off anymore. Again, not financial terms, but for the future, I would still double down. But I would think about the way with which you would train yourself, upskill yourself, and then talk to mentors and other folks in the industry to understand how things are going.
So, I mean, I think the explanation that you've given, right? A lot of people have given, but like one question I have,
Right.
definitely, there was a pattern of over hiring, right? There was
Right.
all this money. You're like, hey, we might as well go spend it, otherwise, Uncle Sam's gonna take all
Yeah.
of it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, when you're running a business, right? The whole
Yeah.
idea is, I would much rather take that money, invest in myself, than just have to go pay it to the government,
Exactly.
right? But when we also look at where those companies were there and now, I think one thing that we're not taking into account is, if they overhired at that time and then they're trimming, then, for example, like we talked about Microsoft laying off, right? So Microsoft market cap in 2021 was 2.5 trillion.
Yeah.
They're at 3.15 trillion.
Yep.
So it's a 25% growth, right?
Wow.
Meta was at 922 billion. They're at 1.7 trillion as of today. And then Oracle was at 233 billion. They're at 500 billion. So Microsoft's 25% bigger now. Meta is 86% bigger than 2021, and Oracle is 114% bigger.
Right.
So the question that I see often asked, and the overhiring that doesn't necessarily explain, is the company
growing.
is generating
Yeah.
so much revenue, so they
Yeah.
should have the capacity to go do more.
Yeah.
Number one, right?
Yeah.
So why are they going the opposite? Why the company's
Yeah.
growing? Why is the workforce shrinking?
That's a great question, right? And I do get asked this question. You guys are like threefold compared to where you were in 2019,
Right.
but then you're trimming down. So here's one thing that I think you guys already know this, but technology follows trend. Okay. So what that means is, if one company does something, everybody follows. And that has been true for technology for decades. So I'll give you an example. This fiasco began in, I think, October or November 2022, when Elon Musk bought Twitter. Okay. So when he bought Twitter, what happened was, like, he was like, well, how many people do you have? Right. And he said, when they said whatever number that was. And then he goes like, yep. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to cut 60% of this thing and still prove to you that I can run well.
Yeah.
I can probably run this better than before, because I'm going to remove the layers. I'm going to set up a structure where engineers have all the power. You're not going to have as much of layers of management, and we're going to run it. And he did it.
Yeah.
He actually he fired the CTO. He fired 60% of his staff. And then everybody looked. They're like, yep. That's what we need to do now, right?
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's technology always follows trend, whether that's Twitter or Microsoft or whatever it is. So that's when this snowball started. And then it was true. They did make a lot of money with
Right.
less number of people. So then they started thinking about, okay, why not more? Can we do more? Now we have AI, right? So I need even less people to do more things, right? The example I gave you, I want to do 200 things with 3 people now versus, 10 things with 3 people, right? So, and that started to, escalate. And then everybody started experimenting with it, whether you're a small company or a big company, big company news hits if you're a big company. So that was the trend, is when it started. And now with the power of AI, things are looking like it's gonna stay.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think of it that way, right? Because he was the first one who said,
Yes.
we don't need such a large team in tech.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't think of it
It
that
was just
way.
like a moment for me.
I mean, a lot of people
Yeah.
called him crazy, right? Like
Right.
for even
Right.
suggesting
They
such a
said
thing.
like, and yes,
Yeah.
were there outages? Yeah, there were like 2 or 3 outages,
Yeah.
right? If you think about, there's a big story where he actually was on his way to California or something, and he said, "Hey, why are we keeping this data center on? Like somewhere in Montana or something, Twitter had the data center. And they're like, well, we have to keep this on because we have to have availability. We have to have these compute servers, and we got to keep these things going. It's like divert my plane. And I think it was on the Christmas day.
Yeah.
And he's like, divert my plane to the data center. And he started going there and using the actual things to cut the wires to the servers.
Really?
Like on a Christmas day. Yeah. It's been published. They know this. So
It's
he
in
diverted
his
his
autobiography book as well.
Oh yeah, Walter Isaacson's. Yeah.
Walter Isaacson. I've read that book. And
Exactly.
It's actually
So
on that
he
book
actually
as well.
went. So I think that's the main starting point, and everybody followed, right? Technology. If you look before September or November, whenever that is in 2020, late 2022, fall of 2022. Before that, we had massive hiring problem. We're hiring like crazy, even during the summer of 2022. It's when the Twitter thing started was when everybody followed. And then I think the other thing, the last thing I want to mention there is also companies do want to move fast, right? If you really think about it, I don't want to have like 4 different senior managers sit together and decide on a product that I want to roll out when, the world is moving at like 260 miles an hour.
Yeah, you
Right?
gotta
I
be
don't want that
quicker.
fat
Yeah.
in between, right? Like I don't want like 4 different layers, and then this guy makes a decision, and then when it goes here, and then he or she has to make a
All the
decision.
bureaucracy thing.
Absolutely, right? Like just flatten the thing and then just move fast.
That is awesome. I also wanted to talk about you're very big in mentorship, right?
Right.
And I think you have helped a lot of people out inside your company as well as outside in the community as well. And you're very big in giving back to the community as well. So I want to talk more about mentorship. I've seen a lot of people who has been in leadership positions, but still have that hesitance of mentoring someone. Like, hey, I'm already this busy, I have this thing to go, that thing to go, I'm already in an exec position, I don't have time to mentorship. But
Right.
you have that subtle way of doing it. Like what's the inspiration that you have of mentoring people, and why do you think it's important to do that as a leader, to mentor people in their personal lives or professional lives?
Right. Really good question. So I think it's a mindset, right? First thing I always think about is if I'm in a position where I am, it's not because it was just me who got there. I had great people behind me. Okay, I had great mentors behind me. I had great bosses. I don't think, knock on wood, I never had a bad boss.
Wow.
Right? Like, yeah, sometimes would you have like controversial things, back and forth? Sure, but I had great bosses in my career, which is a lucky thing to have. So, so having that sort of a thing to admit yourself that the reason why you're behind is obviously family comes and all of those things are there. But in professional setting, you do have a lot of people who have made impact on you. Okay. And I want to be that too for somebody else, right? That's one. So mindset. The other thing is it genuinely makes me happy let's say if I hire an intern and that intern really knocks it out of the park, comes back, becomes a software development engineer, 1, 2, senior, and gets to a manager. It truly, when I see that person, it truly gives me happiness. I actually write it down to like if somebody gets promoted, I'd say like he or she was an intern that I first hired, and now look where they are, right? I have that in the promo announcements and stuff like that. So that's another thing to me, just the sheer happiness, right? And number 3 is I feel like especially in our Nepali community, we have to give back, right? Look, Nepal is a small country, right? We have only certain amount of resources, whatever those resources are. We're not as massive as India or China,
Two big
US, right?
neighbors.
Where you have a bunch of options. So to me, because we are a small community, so if I'm able to make any impact through mentorship for my people or beyond, I'm happy to do that. It's just a mindset that I have from a long time.
So I think like I had a couple of bad bosses, I would say, during my time when I worked in corporate. But like what was the spark moment for you? Like, is there any story that you want to share about like how you decided to go into a mentorship? Like what have like probably a good example would be, do you had some mentorship example of yours, some people who have mentored you?
Yeah.
If you can share a story with that.
I have tons of mentors. I think two main ones that I want to kind of call out was, one is my first mentor when I went to a job right after college. Okay. So obviously very energetic. You know me, I'm, social butterfly, all that stuff. So very energetic, very driven in some ways at work. And sometimes that would be perceived as uh, know it all kind of a personality, right? And so what happened was there was a quality control engineer who had asked me a question, and it was a very basic question. So I got super exasperated, right? Like, how can you not know this sort of a thing in my head, right? You've been in this company for a long time. So what I told her is like, oh, like, how long have you been here? Like, I didn't say that, say it directly like that, but I kind of implied like, what the heck is going on? How do you not know this, right? And then that kind of snowballed a little bit, right? Oh, Sushant was such a, you know,
Yeah.
AA, right? To me. And then so my first mentor is like, look, every person is different, right? Doesn't matter the tenure, doesn't matter. Like, you don't know what kind of day she had, right? So you'd have to understand that not everybody is in your shoes. Not everybody has the same lifestyle, like whatever it is. So you have to give people a chance. So he really mentored me to deal with folks who have different personalities. That's one. So that's one story, right? Really kind of changed my career a little bit there. Number two is I worked at Amazon. So today's AWS, which is Amazon Web Service, the big cloud organization within Amazon, their CEO's name is Matt Garman, right? So Matt Garman used to come to my monthly business reviews back in the day when I was in Amazon. Okay. And he'd sit down, he'd listen to me, he'd ask me a bunch of questions, and I was new to Amazon at that point. And I don't quite recall what was the scenario, but he said, "Hey, can I talk to you after the meeting?" I was like, "Sure." So he took me and this guy named Divakar Gupta, who runs AI supercomputing in Google now. He's a distribution engineer there. So he takes both of us to the room and says like, "Hey, look, you guys are clearly smart. We want you here. That's why you are here. I think a trait of a smart person is listening, not so much speaking, not so much, communication is speaking or writing, people talk about. It's actually the vital part is listening. And that's what Jeff Bezos does is he's in a meeting, he's quiet the whole time, he lets everybody talk, and at the end he speaks, right? So, defining moments like that, mentors like that, who is, Matt Garman, who is now has become a CEO of AWS, to a senior manager at a startup when I first started, were two of my major sort of changing points. But then in between, I had a bunch of people, right, who I loved working with and who showed me the right directions in the career.
Okay. So talking about this, and I'm sure in your role, you have to deal with a lot of things going wrong.
Right.
I'm not sure if
Oh yeah, constantly.
Okay, good. Because
there are always fires from all angles.
Yeah, because I don't want you to be like, nah, man.
No, man, my life is easy. Come on, what are you talking about?
So with that being said, right, there's always this stereotype, you're like everything breaks down at night when like nobody's providing support, or like, do you have like a crazy story like that you're able to share without, of course, talking about
the internals?
Internals. Yeah. Like, do you have one that you're like, man, I can't believe this happened, like something crazy like that?
Yeah.
Throughout your career?
So many.
Because like, I think we all have like that one, like I have that one that'll always like stand out to me, you know, from my line of work, but I'm interested in hearing yours.
Yeah. So I think one of the things, the first reason why I came to Austin from Seattle, I was in Seattle before Austin, and I lived in Seattle for close to 5 years, right? The first reason why I actually was transferred over to Austin was when my boss said, "Hey, look, I want you to go there and I want to change the process completely. I want you to kind of really think about the organization is in a messy state. I want you to kind of go and correct some things." One thing I didn't realize was at what scale. Okay. I knew that things were a little bit tricky, but I just didn't understand the gravity of that trickiness, right? So when I first came here, I was like, all right, Rosie, like it's gonna be fine, right? I know the system, how different can a payment system be, right? And so when I came here, it was a mess, right? So at one point, I think there were 4 incidents back to back which caused I can't reveal the numbers, but it was in high 7 digits impact to the company.
Wow.
Okay. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, what did I sign up for? Right? Like
Yeah.
I didn't know this. If had I known this, the conversation would be very different with my boss, right? And I think one of the things I learned out of that was, and it was like sleepless nights. It was one incident, and then it was a domino of that incident the other day. So we had to go back and then change, like roll back the whole thing we did. Then we're back to square one. We try another thing, then domino, and then it happened for I think 4 nonstop days. So 4 nonstop days of probably 3 hours of sleep total,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
Yeah. And on top of that, things are getting escalated up to the
Right.
CEO, and they're like, "What the hell is going on? What's going on?"
Right.
Now, my justification was, "I'm brand new here, right?
Y-
I could have done that, but I didn't. I think that was the game changer for me. Is like, how can I take ownership, right? Like, what is the tactical thing I need to do now in order to stop the bleeding or do whatever we need to do to fix this? And what's the long term thing strategically I have to think about? Whether that's hard decisions on people, which we did, right? We had to,
Yeah.
because the status quo was clearly not working.
Okay.
Then the process itself, right? The operating model that we had to significantly change that. And we can, spend hours kind of talking about what precisely I did. But then both the tactical side of things and strategic side of things, where I kind of took ownership, made some hard decisions on people and processes, and then changed the culture for good. That's the main thing. That's the hardest part, is changing that culture. When certain people are sitting there and there are incidents that have happened, right? Sleepless nights, they may have done that before. They're like, it's just status quo for me, right? So
Yeah.
changing that culture was one
Yeah.
of the things that I did, which was the harder part.
Did you use some Taekwondo techniques to
At
people?
times by myself in a bathroom door, because I can do it. No, I'm kidding. But no, I mean those are the things I think are harder to change. It's the
Yeah.
cultural things.
How do you balance, when you're responsible for people, right? You have to have a sense of responsibility for your
Yeah.
work and for them also, right?
absolutely.
It's at the end of the day, you're dealing with people. But the hard part is, that it requires you to have good and, bad conversations.
Right.
And when you're making these decisions, like what's your thought process like?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you're having to go to somebody and say, "Hey man, like you're not a good fit."
Right.
Right. And if the person knows that they suck, actually it's a lot easier. But I think often
It's never that though.
yeah,
Whenever
most
you have-
people be
yeah.
like, "I had no idea this
I'm
is
a
coming."
great performer. What are you talking
Right.
about, right?
So how do you balance that? I mean,
Yeah.
that's got to be a tough thing to do.
Yeah. Great question. So I think there's this guy named Ethan Evans who used to be a VP at Amazon and then now left Amazon and has been doing his own podcast and leadership things. He has coined this term called chameleon leader. So if you want to be a truly an impactful leader, you have to be like a chameleon, because there's no one set standards that you would have to apply across everybody. Everyone is different. Doesn't mean that, I have like 70 plus people in my organization. Doesn't mean I need to have 70 plus personality. That is not going to happen, right? But you need to have a set framework, right? Because the conversation you're going to have with a person who just came into your company versus the principal engineer who is in your company for 12 years is not the same. You can't like just tell a college grad and say, "Hey, here's an abstract problem, go solve it for me." For that person, you'd have to micromanage and say, "I want you to do it precisely like this." That's the leadership style you want. Micromanagement is bad, yeah, at times, but micromanagement is good in some of the things. But for a principal engineer, you can just say like, "Hey, go do this, give an abstract problem and just sit back, relax. They'll figure it out for you," right? So that's one thing, especially on hard conversations. To your point, nobody wants to admit that. Everybody is a rock star in their mind. Okay. So when you have that initial conversation, it's like, what? What are you talking about? So to me, an impactful leader is when that surprise thing doesn't hit them. You have to give very constant feedback. Okay. So by the time you have the hard conversation, it's not going to be hard because you have been giving that feedback. You have not been seeing the results. So by the time you get to a point where things may not work out, it's going to be like, okay, I understand. I get it. Is there something I can do still? Most likely at that stage, probably not. But that's not going to be as hard. So you have to have that constant sort of a feedback given to individuals in order not to have that. And at the end of the day, if you have reached that stage where these conversations have happened and they have been put into some sort of a list or performance plan, what I suggest to those individuals is don't fight, right? Just look for another job, because the chances of you getting out of that is going to be very, very
or getting them to
difficult.
reconsider by
Yeah,
fighting back.
yeah.
Especially with a first degree Taekwondo black belt. I don't think you're gonna
Yep.
have
Come on.
I don't think you're gonna have a good chance winning
Right.
that.
No, but
That's
I
two
would say,
losses in one day.
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, just at that stage, I'd recommend folks just look for another job, look for an opportunity that's better fit for you, and go out. But from leader standpoint, you do have to have a framework
Yeah.
with which you deal with different kinds of personality.
Yeah.
Not every single personality, but the framework to deal with different kind of personality.
I think the different kind of personality, I'd like to ask you a question around that. So everybody talks about different generations, right? So we got,
Right.
Millennials, we got,
Gen
boomers
Zs.
and then Gen Zs.
I don't know how to talk any Gen Z. If
Yeah.
you're asking me that,
Well,
no, I'm kidding.
that's exactly what I'm going to ask. So, with Gen Z, like, what differences do you see in the different, I mean, if any, generations and how they approach, their work or their problems or their communication? I mean, there are a lot of stereotypes out there.
Yeah.
Wondering if you see anything.
I'm heavily against stereotypes, so I can't really sit and say all Gen Zs are like this,
Sure.
right? I dislike doing that. I think it all depends on personality in my mind, not so much generation. So, you can have a very driven individual, very prompt, disciplined individual, and there's a concept now is like Gen Zs are not very disciplined, or they're
Mhm.
like vibing with everything,
Yeah.
right? It's not really true. We can't paint it with a broad brush. What I would say is I think the generational thing that I see a difference on is work culture. A lot of people don't know what it means to be in the office full time, right? So when we talk about, we used to be in the office 40 hours a week, and we want you guys to be in the office 25 out of 40. They're like, why?
Yeah.
I can be 20 times productive being at home.
Right.
Right? Like
Right.
that's the first thing that, like, I don't have to worry about commute. I don't have to worry about breakfast in the morning. I can just do direct lunch and the whole time I can work. Well, to some extent that is true, but those soft skills I talked about, those leadership things, you're missing out completely if you don't interact with people, right? Being in the office, talking to leaders, talking to your peers, talking to your stakeholders, partners, whether that's within your organization or cross-functional, cross-organization, that is supremely important, especially early on in your career. And that's the main thing I see with some of the younger folks is, hey, should I be in the office? Is it an option I work from home?
Right.
They don't have the concept at times, not everybody, but some folks don't have the concept of what it means to work full-time 40 hours a week.
Got it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that during my time in Walmart as well, there was always this saying like, it's easy to work by yourself, but to make someone work is always a tough thing to
Right.
do, right? So at the same time, working in this, like having a leader like you in the company is a lot of blessings. I think
Thank you.
whenever you were explaining things, and I'm like, God damn, I wish I had a boss like this,
Yeah.
during my career, just because it says a lot about how that team is run and all that stuff. And I think one thing that I want to circle back on what you said is, hey, coming into the office, these are the things happening. And I think that will distinct us between AI as well. I see that part as well, having that human touch, going to an office, talking to stakeholders, investors, and all that stuff. And I had the same thing going on my real estate. If I'm going to listing agreement, there are people like they have created an agent and all that stuff. But I think my thing is like me being there is always a plus point, right? And I think definitely leadership quality is there. But at the same time, I think it will differentiate you as this AI thing, AI rat race going on. You'll be different being in having that conversation with people. I think people are not going anywhere too soon.
No, I don't think so. And like I said, I think it's with AI is the principle that we should go with, not replacing AI, or I'll be replaced by AI. And also I think you also have to understand what are you hired to do, right? What is important to you, and how to be efficient at that. That's where AI comes in handy, right? Like you don't have to, earlier point, you don't have to sit down and do a design from scratch, right? Or do coding from scratch, right? Like you want to be able to find out, how can I be very efficient so that I can spend now more time on being a leader, or coaching someone, or spend time outside playing racquetball or taekwondo, or breaking doors, whatever it is. So I think that's where we're headed in my
So
mind.
I think to wrap up, is there anything that you think that we should talk about? I think we have touched on many points, from mentorship to AI to
Right.
travel to your leadership position, Expedia. Do you have anything that we have missed you want to share about?
Um, I think we covered majority of things. I think one thing that I did want to talk about briefly is the landscape of payments in general, because that's where my bread and butter in some ways
Sure.
is, right? And a lot of people are asking me like, hey, with the AI revolution, where is payment headed? Like, how
Mhm.
would payments change?
Yeah.
And a lot of people ask me questions on Bitcoin and
Yeah, I was gonna say, what about
crypto.
crypto
Yeah,
in
yeah.
all this? Yeah.
And I think I don't think we are in a position, at least for now, to say like this is where all things payments would be, right? In the
Mhm.
future. That it's going to be all backed by Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies, whatever they are,
Blockchains.
blockchain, stable currencies, right?
Yeah.
Back all on blockchain. Um, I think we're going to have a blend of things. I don't think credit cards are going to go away. I don't think cash is going to go away. I don't think government bonds are going away anytime soon. Especially if you have stable currencies, they have to be backed by something, reserves, right? So
Sure.
that's cash, bonds, and all that stuff. So the reason why I think cryptocurrency in general has not taken as a precedence for major forms of payment in people's wallets is because it's super volatile, right?
Mhm.
You see crypto prices, like especially Bitcoin prices, was at what 140, right?
Yeah,
Reached
I think
that.
125 was the highest.
125 was the highest. Okay,
Yeah, and
so
then it
120, and
tanked
then
and
now it's back to like
75,
75, right?
yeah.
Went down to like 64 or something like that, right? So
Exactly. Yeah.
because of that volatility, people still don't think that that's going to be the primary source of payments anytime soon, but the future is there, especially with stable currencies coming in.
Yeah.
So crypto is a future, but we're going to have a blend of different types of payment types in
But
people's wallets.
is it that, or is it, to put on my conspiracy hat?
Yeah.
Is it like
I
the
love
fact that it's
conspiracies. Come on,
yeah,
lay it on me, man.
is it the fact that the government can't control it?
Yeah. So I think there are governments in the world now who are a lot more open,
Mm-hmm.
on crypto.
Right.
Yes, you're right that it's truly decentralized.
Right.
Like that, there's very less control, and maybe because of that, there's some artificial volatility going on. Again, my
Mhm. Yeah.
conspiracy
Yeah.
going on now. Um,
Because the government themselves are invested in buying crypto too. Like the U.S.
Yes.
government owns a lot of
Yeah.
Bitcoins, and,
Yeah.
and most governments do actually. In
they
the whole
don't
world.
reveal as much,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Because at the end of the day, Bitcoin is not backed by government reserves,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
it's truly
But
decentralized.
everybody's invested in some way.
Yeah.
Maybe it's in the what ifs, right? Like,
Yeah.
what if this actually does turn out to be something? But I mean, that's the beauty that I think of crypto is the decentralization.
Right.
But that's also where my conspiracy hat comes in. It's like, why can't we accept it? Because at the end of the day, when we look at what's happened to the dollar,
Yeah.
over the past couple of years, I mean, we've lost a lot of value,
Yeah.
right? Inflation's through the roof.
Right.
So I mean, the bond market is also going crazy.
Yeah.
So when we look at all of this, and initially, dollar was backed by gold. We don't back, even the dollar's not really backed by anything anymore. So
We're just printing money.
yeah, right.
Essentially.
If we need money, we'll just print it.
Yeah.
We're artificially going
Yeah.
and increasing the supply. So when I look at this, I don't see any difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To some extent, it is true, but I think at the end of the day, tradition matters in some ways, right?
Mhm.
A lot of people, what happens is that it's also your comfort level. Like everybody's comfortable in having a deposit in your bank, and then using your credit card, right?
Sure.
So it's also a generational thing in my
Yeah.
mind. That's why I'm saying that the future
Yeah.
is definitely bright, right? That crypto is going to be a major vehicle when it comes to payments.
Sure.
It just hasn't happened yet because of the fact that volatility somehow makes major news for crypto and not so much on the bond market. Because how many people are going to understand the bond market?
True.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it is very
Like,
complex.
It is
Yeah.
complex. How
Yeah.
many people do own bonds? Not a lot,
Yeah.
right? Like a lot of people have investments on stocks.
I don't.
Right? Or exactly, right?
You don't have any
it-
stocks
No, on bonds.
on
on
bonds.
bond
Okay, I
market.
see.
Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, it's also what makes the news cycle. Over time, as people get more comfortable, they understand, modernize some of the payment rails and stuff. These are going to be very normal things. It's just the time now, the volatility thing is making more news for crypto versus dollars and
Got
other
it.
types of payment methods.
how do you educate people on these things? I mean, like one of the things that I have the biggest maybe qualms with, earlier you talked about some guidance for aspiring technologists, right, that are coming out of college. I mean, my question to you is, a college degree even necessary with AI?
Great question. And I mean, I can't sit here and say, hey, don't go to college.
Yeah.
I can't, right? Somebody was asking me the other day at work, hey, look, my daughter is graduating high school and she really wants to study, I think, biomedical science or something. What is the future of that? Well, I haven't done research enough to say, yep, don't send her to college.
Yeah.
Do not do that. I
Right.
can't say that.
Right.
However, what would happen in my mind is the academic field is going to significantly change. The way with which courseworks are designed, the focus areas are going to be significantly changed. It's the foundational thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, for
But
example,
the problem is, like, there's no professors that are educated enough because it's such a new technology.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how quickly it's evolved.
Yeah.
Like,
There's-
who's teaching
Yep,
this?
yep. There's going to be a little bit of that gap.
Yeah.
Where it's going to be a blend of not just the ones with PhD degrees,
Right,
but the
right.
industry leaders,
Yes.
which we've already, by the way, seen. This is nothing new. That you
Yeah.
know, I've been constantly called by UT Austin to say, hey, can you teach this professional course on this? I just haven't done it, given
Yeah.
so many things. That blend has already happened. So
Yeah.
you'd have to, I think, in my mind, mix that theoretical part
Sure.
with real industry leaders in order to really revamp the structure with which the college courseworks are designed. And I think that it is taking place in various different universities. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's going to be the future.
Yeah, I think, like, with AI, that was my main thing is,
Yeah.
do I even need to go to college? Because
Yeah.
I can access I can have an AI professor
Yeah.
teach me kind of anything and everything that I want to learn, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and maybe the same thing on the finance side too.
Right.
It's like a lot of financial education literacy. I think we struggle with that
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
in America.
I think I would say, like, the question becomes like, hey, do I need to know these foundations
Yeah.
and then build upon that foundation to get there? Or that foundation is already built for me, whatever that vehicle is, AI or not? That's
Right.
the question,
Right.
right? And then I can start immediately from the top instead
Right.
of going from the foundation. I
Right.
think that's where we are. In my
Okay.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that anything else that you would like to say, maybe some last bits.
I think we covered most of it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I love having these conversations. This is more of a conversation
Yeah.
than question and answer. Hopefully it went out like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
right?
We
Than
learned
me
a
just sitting
lot.
here
Yeah,
and then
we learned a
answering
lot.
questions.
Yeah.
But thank you guys, obviously, for having me.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
It was a wonderful conversation. If we want to
Yeah.
do part 2 again,
Yeah,
100%.
of course.
We are
Not,
here.
not
a phone
just
call
two.
away.
We'll do 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
We'll
Love
keep
it.
this
Love
going.
it.
But
Yes, sir.
thank you for taking the time out of your
Absolutely.
day
Yeah.
and speaking to us.
yeah.
We'll make sure we'll include your Instagram. I know you're trying some
Yes.
Yes.
some
Please do.
fashion related things.
Yeah.
And also his LinkedIn as well.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
people can look at it and learn more.
One thing I would say is, if you guys are listening out there, young aspiring engineers or technologists, doesn't have to be only engineers or product managers, whatever your role is, please feel free to reach out. Right. One thing that would not happen in your career is if you do not proactively sort of reach out to folks for some advice or whatever it is that you're looking for, you're not going to get it. Nobody's going to come knock on your door and say, hey, I'm going to
on
give
in.
this to you,
Yeah.
right? So please reach out. I may not respond to you in 2 hours, but I will respond. I'm absolutely happy to sit down on a coffee and kind of chat about anything, whether that's leadership, whether that's AI, whether that's where we're headed, whether that's how I can sort of maybe morph into more of modern times and be impactful. Happy to chat. So just reach out. All right.
And with that, it's I think good note to end it up. Again, thank you, Dai, for making this time for us. We really enjoyed it. And again, definitely there will be part 2 and 3. For now, DBT, peace out.
There you go.